Hi, everyone. Welcome to our ISEP current student panel. Thank you so much for joining us. And just before we get started with our amazing panelists, if you all want to share in the chat either where you're joining us from or where you will be attending this fall term, you can go ahead and drop that in the chat just while we wait for a few more participants to join us and before we get started. Yep. So definitely just go ahead and drop some information in the chat if you'd like. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. Great. And
Welcome,
then,
everybody. If you've just joined us and didn't hear, we're so excited to have you all here for the current student panel. If you want to put in the chat where you'll be studying, we'd love to hear where you're going to be studying. Cool. We have somebody going to Greece, someone going to Tokyo. Great. St. Lawrence University, Melbourne, South Korea. Awesome. Another person going to Tokyo. Cool. Someone going to McDaniel in the US, going to Sevilla. Alaska, Baltimore, England, Colorado, Vermont, another person going to Greece, Connecticut, another person going to Tokyo. A lot of folks going to Tokyo. That's great. Milan, Germany, Austria. Awesome. Somebody going to Canada, Finland. Cool. What a nice variety. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in just 1 second. We're giving a few other folks time to join. Awesome. Welcome. Someone going to Illinois. Okay. Well,
great.
let's get it started.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing. It's great to see that there's so many of you from so many different places, and we'll be going to so many different places this fall and summer. So if you didn't hear in the beginning, thank you so much for joining our ISEP current student panel. We have some really great panelists here that are excited to speak with all of us and answer some questions. So we can go ahead and get started. And before we get started with our panelists, we're going to start with some polls. So our first poll question, have you completed your ISEP acceptance package? So you can go ahead and answer that.
Awesome. That's great. So about 78% of you have completed it and 22% are still working on it. Awesome. Well, we're going to get into that in a second. Um, for our next poll, whoops, you want to go? Awesome.
Yeah, so our next poll is a question about ISEP community spaces. So we're looking to start some ISEP community spaces that students will allow students to interact with before arrival. So maybe which categories or topics interest you. So you can go ahead and see some options there and you can select one choice.
Awesome. Thank you guys. This is really great feedback. We're looking forward to starting these community spaces. So this is helpful for us to understand what's going to best serve you. Great. And with that, we're going to get into our slides. So to share a little bit about our presentation today, Amanda and Jackie are going to do a really quick presentation on completing your acceptance package, and then we're going to launch straight into our panels.
Great, so I'll go ahead and start with a little bit more information about completing your ISEP acceptance package. Seems like a lot of you may have already completed this, but for those of you who are still reviewing or working on your acceptance package, You can find your acceptance package in your ISEP dashboard and the acceptance package tab. So if you see the screenshot we have here on the right side of the screen, you can see acceptance package highlighted there in yellow. So you can click into that tab and you'll be able to access your ISEP acceptance package. And you have 3 weeks from the time you receive your acceptance package to complete it. And again, you can see what it looks like over there. So when one section's completed, you'll have a blue check mark. So generally, your acceptance package has 5 main sections that need to be completed. All students need to complete the ISEP information and contract tab, which has lots of good information about your ISEP program and your particular program. So make sure you read through all of that information very carefully. And then you also have a medical form to complete. So you have a few questions to answer there. You'll have to provide a little bit of information and provide an emergency contact. And the majority of our ISEP direct students will have to pay a program deposit, and ISEP exchange students will have an acceptance fee. If you do have any questions about this or don't see it showing up in your acceptance package, it could be that your home university covers these fees for you. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to your ISEP student services officer or your home ISEP coordinator at your home university. And you will also have to enroll in health insurance. For ISEP direct students, this is a part of your ISEP acceptance package. And for ISEP exchange students, you can enroll in health insurance after. And your home ISEP coordinator at your home university, their signature is required as part of the acceptance package. So you can check in with them on any outstanding action items that you might need from your home university. And as always, you can always contact your ISEP Student Services Officer if you have any questions. So I'll go ahead and let our moderator today, Rachel Gordon, go ahead and take over.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here today. My name is Rachel Gordon. I'm the Director of Enrollment Management here at ISEP, and I'm going to be moderating today's panel. Before I introduce today's panelists, I also want to encourage you all to please go ahead and put your questions for our panelists in the Q&A so we can start answering your questions. This is all about you and the things that you want to hear. So please feel free to ask any questions you might have. That's what our panelists are here for, to answer your questions. Um, all right, so to start, we have Mitchell, who's a student at Virginia Tech and is currently in Japan at Tokyo International University. You want to wave hi, Mitchell? Thanks. We have Christian, who's from East Carolina University and is currently in Ireland at University College Cork.
What's up, guys?
We have Mason, who's from Kent State and is currently in Estonia.
Hello, hello.
And we have Emily, who's from Fort Lewis College and is currently in the United Kingdom at York.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. I also want to note the student who is currently studying in the United States was unfortunately not able to be here at the last minute. So if you have questions about studying in the United States, our panelists can answer as they're all students in the United States. Or we can connect you after the panel with a student who is an international student currently in the United States if you have questions about the experience of being an international student in the US. We are happy to help connect you with someone to answer your questions. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. My first question for the panel is, can you tell us a little bit about your experience arriving and settling into your host site, and what's your number one tip for things that students should do really early on to help, smooth out that arrival and make yourself comfortable in your new host city?
I feel like going first.
Great.
So, hi, my name is Mason Bear. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm studying at University of Tartu in Estonia. And real quick, I saw someone here going to study in Kent State University. So reach out to me. I can answer all your questions if you have any. But yeah, so one of my most well-known memories is when I first arrived at university in Estonia. And I was very nervous to begin with because it's kind of like my first time like living outside of the US before. But it was so cool. And the place I stayed at was just filled with other exchange international students. So everybody was kind of in the same situation as I am, brand new city, brand new country. So it was all kind of just new for everybody, which was also really nice. And so um, I just felt like it was very easy to meet people and very easy to do things with people because everybody was there for the first time. And so everybody was willing to do things. So yeah, that was my experience.
Yeah, I agree with Mason. I'd say everybody's studying, like everyone is also studying abroad, so they're all open and they're all there to meet new people. So my number one tip would be to be open and just friendly, and the friends will come naturally.
Yeah, I was sort of in the same situation. From the airport, like all the international students met up and we caught a bus to our um like apartments or where we were staying. So that was super nice. Got to meet a lot of people. But I'd say like the number one tip would be to get an eSIM or like a SIM card. That just made everything a lot easier. Just to have like Google Maps, Google Translate, it just kind of opened up everything. So definitely get an eSIM or a physical SIM card. Definitely my number one tip.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are on the right track with just the fact that studying abroad is, I feel like people are very open to having new experiences there. So, it's really rare to have somebody who's not open to having a new experience or a new friend. So friends do kind of come naturally. But I think, like Mitchell said, like communication is really important. So just making sure you do have like some sort of plan, whether that be like a SIM card, maybe you have a cell phone plan, something like that, and then like knowing who you need to contact if anything goes wrong or if anything's different or shouldn't be the way it is. But yeah, for me that was like campus security, the information center, just making sure you have that just in case. But I think that'll be my number one tip. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're starting to get some questions in the chat already, actually. So we'll start with this one. What's your favorite non-academic thing that you've done so far while abroad? Anybody can jump in and start.
I can start off with this one. Definitely my favorite thing is just obviously just exploring the new city and stuff, but specifically the wildlife, like parks and nature stuff. I think that is super cool, just seeing the different kinds of like trees and like just the things that the parks in the US don't really have. Definitely a cool experience.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd say this one's pretty self-explanatory, but it'd be just like traveling, um, just seeing places. That's kind of the reason why most of us go. But also doing that with friends that you've met, and just that overall is really amazing. So I'd definitely say the traveling factor of it has been my favorite part, non-academic.
Awesome.
Yeah, I also agree with that. So one of the things that I really enjoyed was I had a big friend group about like 8 or 9 people, and we just like rented an Airbnb for a weekend just somewhere in the nature of Estonia, and we just like those are the best. So really try to get out there and just explore. Really, that's really the best thing. It's it was so fun. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I like Mason's point on just exploring. One of the first couple of things that I did was just like go on walks. I kind of just, rather than like take the bus somewhere, I was gonna walk it instead, just to kind of see for myself where I was at. But like I also think food, like traveling, was a really big aspect that we've talked about so far. And like with that, for me, I'm a foodie, so like trying new foods is really fun. So yeah.
I would like to actually add on that too. I'd say one thing that I've really loved about just being outside of the United States is the fact that most of the cities are very walkable. So that's different than the US. For whoever's going to the US, be prepared for that. But yeah, just the walkability of cities has been like definitely one of my favorite parts. Just like I've walked every last inch of Cork, so yeah, definitely up there for one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I want to add
Um,
on to what Emily said. Definitely the food. The food is huge. Getting out and trying like the different local foods because they're definitely going to be different than what you get in America or wherever you're from. The food is, yeah, definitely a huge part. Definitely do that.
awesome. Thank you all. Okay. Next question that I think we want to start with. This one was specifically for Mitchell, but I'm gonna make it broader. There was a question about budgeting tips. So I'm gonna actually make this broader. Can each of you talk about like how you planned financially for study abroad and what tips you've found for saving money and sticking to a budget while you're abroad?
So I'll start with like her specific question or their specific question. I'm not really too sure about the portable pocket Wi-Fi. I've not heard of that, but the SIM card is pretty, it's not very non-expensive. It was about 20 gigs for 20 bucks. So I don't know how much data everyone else's uses, but that was plenty for me. And then just for budgeting, I think obviously, like I said, like trying the food, the local food and stuff is huge, but not always eating out. Definitely cooking at home as well has been pretty budget friendly for me. And then also there's a lot of cool attractions that don't cost money. They're like free entry and stuff. Definitely finding those that are close to you, that definitely helps a lot too.
The student said, "Thank you, Mitchell. You're the goat."
Yeah.
You're the goat. No, you're the goat.
Okay. Does anybody else have a budgeting tip?
I actually do. I'd say this is, I don't know, I'm in Ireland, so it may not suit all of you guys, but there's an app called Too Good to Go. You get that, and you can get like these little like care packages for like €5 with a somewhat solid amount of food in there. So it's more than what you'd usually get for €5. So you're getting more for your money, I guess. That'd be my tip.
That's great. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
As far as like travel goes, because I feel like that has been mentioned a lot, is like one of the best parts about like, I don't know, especially as a person from the US, like if you're in Europe, everything's a lot closer. Like flights to a different country are going to be way cheaper than in the middle of the US where I'm from. But also I will say that like I feel that travel around where you're living is also underrated. I've talked to a lot of international students who are at my university, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to like go to this country and go to this country since I'm so close. And I'm like, yeah, but there's also this castle museum like 20 minutes down the street. We should also go there because, you know, sometimes that can be a little bit more budget friendly and it's still really cool. So yeah, I just say maybe if you can't afford far travel, maybe just focus on your area where you're at. Like that's why you're there.
I think that's great advice. I think so many people spend so much time thinking I need to fly here for this weekend and here for that weekend. And you're in such a cool, unique place. Spend some time exploring your local environment. There's so much to see in your host site. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah, I guess I would like to add on to Emily's tip about staying in your home country because I pretty much stayed in my home country my entire first semester, just like traveling to different places inside of Estonia. So there's plenty to see in the country you are staying at. Um, and also, I know a lot of places, like a lot of grocery stores, and so will have they will offer like expired food for cheap, like 30%, 50% off. And I know it could be a little sketchy to eat expired food. But I was perfectly fine. I ate so much. Um, so you just got to be a little cautious because some could make you a little sick. But I was okay. And I saved a lot of money from that. So also check your grocery stores because a lot of times they will have sales for expired food. So, yeah.
And also use your student ID card to your advantage. There's usually some student discounts out there, not only for food, but for also traveling. You can get student discounts. So yeah, use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I think student discounts too. Also, so far as like grocery shopping, I have found a buddy here who we go grocery shopping together because then we can like split the cost of groceries. We don't have to buy food like in bulk and then only for one person. So I think if you can, maybe getting one friend or a group of friends to kind of do that with, that way you're not by yourself. It's not a necessity, but sometimes it can make it a bit easier, a little bit more convenient, and sometimes cheaper.
Great. Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit. If any of you have roommates that you were able to like fill out a housing form and put in preferences, we have someone who's going to be their first time putting in roommate preferences. And what would you recommend? You can even think maybe back to your own experience as freshmen, if you had to put in a freshman roommate preference. What types of things do you think people might want to consider if they have the ability at their host site to put in preferences for what types of students they would want to live with?
I think like definitely finding out if they're night owls versus morning person people, just to know like kind of get schedules aligned even before you meet, as well as just like common interests. Like, are they adventurous kind of people or like kind of more homebodies? Just simple stuff like that. Definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially like I think the most important thing when it comes to having a roommate is making sure you guys' schedules align. Because if you are a morning person and you're roomed with a night person, then they will return home late and you'll be in bed and it'll just be a whole mess. Um, so definitely try to put in preferences for like what you would prefer and like somebody who's to stay in the same room with. So like if you prefer going to bed early, then write that as you want someone to go to bed early. If you prefer like going out and doing things, then maybe you don't want somebody who's in the apartment the whole time. It's it's tricky, but you gotta make sure it's very important to share these, to write down as many things that are important to you as possible.
Awesome. Yeah, I would also definitely highlight the cleanliness. If you're a person who likes things really, really clean and organized, I think you want to say that you like things really clean and organized. Um, so yeah, that just be my advice. Okay, switching gears a little bit. What was the most stressful thing you had to do in preparation for leaving for your host site? And maybe how did you overcome it? How did you get past it? How did you resolve um, that stressor? Anybody can start.
Okay, so for me, uh, the most stressful part was definitely getting a visa. Um, for Estonia, they don't really have visa centers located in the US, so I had to go to like an independent visa place for like getting my Estonian visa, um, and which was in Washington D.C. So I had to go like 5, 6 hours by car to get my visa, and that was probably the most stressful thing for me. Just making sure I had all the right paperwork and stuff. I know if you're coming from Europe to the US, I know I don't know what the visa process is like, but I would hope it's easier. But also, I've heard some really mm, difficult thing. People have had some difficult challenges with that. So, but that was for me the most stressful part.
Yeah, I would agree. Kind of just like not just the visa, but just the paperwork in general, the acceptance package. I know for Japan, I had to get something called a COE, and then I got that, and then also got the visa after. And it is like a little bit overwhelming, and it seems like a lot, but I think just taking it one step at a time, breaking it down, and yeah, just doing one like bits and pieces of it, that definitely helps a lot. So not trying to get it all done within one day, but just kind of spreading it out and just taking your time with it, but making sure you get it done is that was probably the most hard thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have very many stressors because I went to Ireland, so I didn't have to get a visa. But there's also a lesson in this because I didn't really have many papers going in. Um, while like other students that were going there did have a lot of papers, so I didn't really prepare for that. But a lesson out of that is that they figured it out for you. Like if you don't have all the right papers, you're not just gonna get denied into the country. At least Ireland. I'm not sure about everywhere else, but Um, but yeah, I really didn't have many stressors, to be honest.
Awesome. Thanks. Can everybody hear me okay? Sorry,
Yeah.
of course, now is the time that my internet decided to totally cut out. Um, but great. Um, did you guys answer the question on public transportation just now? Or did everything get marked as answered? Okay, because my internet cut out. Okay, next question. Can you all talk about your experience navigating public transportation at your host site?
I
I mean, oh, you go, Mitchell.
no,
Oh,
you got it, you got it, you got it.
okay. All right. Yeah, so I had a webinar with some people from my university before I came here, and they told me that the app to download for the buses. They also said that like taxis were great. I would It's like a tip, maybe check and see like if Uber is like a really big thing where you are going to be going, because sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a different rideshare company. But yeah, I would just say that there's this saying my friends and I say that if you can navigate public transportation in a different country, then there isn't anything you can't do. So I would just say have faith, make sure you're on time places and that you leave early. My public transport here isn't as reliable, I feel like, as it is in some other places, but it still is there. But yeah, I would just say take it slow, try to get all the information that you can, maybe ask if there is an app specifically, maybe ask your university that you're going to if there's somebody you can reach out via email or something like that. And then also just Googling, I feel like too, can do a lot of help. But yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of cities have an app for transportation that will help kind of guide you around.
yeah, in Tokyo, the public transportation is really helpful. It's pretty much the only way I get around. It does seem a little confusing, but Google Maps is absolutely life-saving. It pretty much breaks it all down into really easy steps. So definitely use Google Maps. And then there is an app for like your transit fares. And you can just upload money from your like bank account into it. It makes it super easy. But definitely use Google Maps. That is so helpful.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is just an Ireland thing once again, but at orientation they give you all the little tips and stuff for like traveling and stuff. So there's something called a leap card in Ireland, and you apply for it. It costs 10 euro, and then regardless of where you're going on the bus, it's two euro 50, and you just have your leap card and you swipe it, and when you go in, so that's and it's pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really the best for this question because in Tartu, it's a pretty small place. Maybe about like 90,000 people live there. So I can just walk everywhere without really needing public transportation. But I will say, when traveling around in other places and in the US and in Europe, wherever you are in Asia, uh, Google Maps is Google Maps or Apple Maps is just they're lifesavers for anything when you don't know what you're doing. So I would definitely use those. I use that a lot when I'm traveling. So that's what I definitely would recommend.
Awesome. Okay, this next one is for a student who's going to be going to the US. They're wondering, since you all are from the US, how does Trump's presidency influence student life on campus in your experience?
Abroad or
Um,
in the US?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard for you all to tell because you've been abroad the whole time. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any information on this because you haven't been on campus. But yeah, it anything that you feel
I,
you want to say, it's hard to tell if you're not on campus.
it's hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard to tell since yeah, we're not really I'm not in the US at least at the moment. Um, but I feel like it probably won't be that much of a change. At least like my university, Kent State University in the US, it's it's very like it's very liberal and they're very just free to doing whatever. So I feel like it won't be very heavily affected by the Trump. But it also just depends on the university you go to. Um, but yeah, it's hard to tell because I haven't really been there. So
Yeah, that's a definite fair answer.
Yeah, it definitely matters where you're going. But even then, I feel like I mean, I don't know. I haven't been there, but I don't think if one school is like more towards Trump than the other, like it's going to be a different experience for you. I don't think it'll be like that. I think, yeah, I think it'll be fun.
So far as like I don't know, I feel like maybe this, now that I'm reading this question, maybe it was directed as like, how does it affect our lives as Americans in a different country? I will say I have been asked about it before, a couple of times. Like it actually is brought up quite frequently. And I guess it just depends on who you're talking to. Yeah, I mean, it can be awkward sometimes. Sometimes people are really chill about it. Sometimes people just bring it up. I've had it brought up to me in classes before, actually, because I'm taking a relatively politically focused class, and that gets a little weird sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has had that experience, but
Yeah, I've definitely had it. I mean, it's definitely Trump's name has been said a lot in Ireland because he's going to affect Ireland in a way. So I hear Trump's name a lot here. Um, but has it affected me at all? No. It's just like it kind of just has surprised me how much I've heard his name here. Um, I expected to lose that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think these are all great answers. And I see also some folks answered in the chat who are still on campus preparing to leave about their experience. But I think, yeah, I think in general, universities are a place of sharing ideas and sharing opinions. And uh, you should expect that, people want to talk about their opinions, talk about their ideas, uh, and hear what other people have to say and what other people think about the situation. So I think there's probably an increase in conversation on campuses. And there's sometimes an increase in, political activity or demonstrations on campus, but I don't know that it's too deeply impacting, you know, especially American students on college campuses. Um, okay, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. Um, it, um, has anybody joined any clubs while abroad? This one was also for you, Mitchell. They want to know if
Yeah.
you've joined a club.
So I really wanted to. I wanted to join basketball club, and unfortunately my school class schedule just didn't line up with their practice schedule, the time, so I didn't get to, which was unfortunate, but you definitely can join clubs. I have a few friends in like a volleyball club and a music club, so it's definitely possible. It is, a lot of the members are locals, so they do speak mainly Japanese. So I don't know if you know any Japanese or um yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely possible. Yeah, for sure. But definitely Japanese heavy, so you might need that Google Translate. I don't know.
Yeah,
Does
to add on
anybody
to
else
that,
join
I
a
mean,
club?
I don't, I'm not in any clubs. I did want to join a society, but I just never got around to it. But one of my best friends that I met here, he's on the club football team or soccer, however you want to say it. And he has a bunch of boys that are local Irish. They're all local Irish guys. So he's the only one from America, and that's international. So he's made a lot of friends from it. And yeah, definitely something to admire to just know like all those people from all the locals. And he's definitely good friends with them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would definitely say, and we hear this from students all the time, if you have the time and the ability to join a society or join a club, it's a great way to get to know people on campus and make some close-knit local friends. Um, it's a nice way to really integrate yourself into campus life and your new host site. Okay. Uh, Next question, I'm going to change a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with classes, and have the classes felt very different from your academic experience at home, or was there anything that surprised you about the academics?
Yeah, I can go ahead and talk about that real quick. So I feel like the classes themselves have been pretty similar. I feel like we have a seminar every week and a lecture every week. So during the lectures, I think I have a lecture with like 230 people, which coming from a really small university in the US, that was a pretty big change for me. But then we also have these seminars, and that's split up to about 15 people, and then your professor. So you still get that close knit kind of conversation with other students, and then you also still get to talk to your professor. But those lectures were really something I was not used to. And then the grading system is also quite different in the UK compared to the US. And it's also just knowing like the grading, like how professors grade is different as well. So in the US, like it's kind of up to the professor to grade your work. That's their job. Where in the UK, like the professor will grade it, and then it gets submitted to a committee, and then they kind of go through like an objective grading meeting, I guess, about your work. And then they decide on a grade for you. So you may not get your grades back for like a month or two after. So that was very different for me. So I guess would just say, like at the beginning of your classes, maybe ask those types of questions, like, how is this different? Like, I think for me is the biggest issue was that I didn't know what kinds of questions to ask. So maybe just talking to other students, like what happens after I turn in my work, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say in Estonia the class structure is very similar to in the US, where it's there's some projects, some homeworks, some tests, and a final exam. So it's very well structured throughout the whole semester, and also the same letter grading as well in Estonia. So it wasn't very different. Just the only big difference I experienced was, so I'm studying computer science, and in Estonia, a lot of classes can be done fully online without needing to really attend a lecture. A lot of them are either lecturers will record themselves while they're giving the live lecture, or they'll just have recordings for you to watch with the lecture slides and such. So I found that very useful for me, because I'm currently in Germany for 2 weeks doing school, so it makes it very easy for traveling purposes and such. But yeah.
Yeah, I think my classes are very similar to the ones I take in the US. The main difference just being the class size. They're a lot smaller. Here in Japan, more like I think my biggest class is about 30 people, so not too big. And then also just the variety of people, like people from all over the place, which is really cool. Being able to just see the different viewpoints from like people around the world.
I'd actually say my classes compared to home are much different. Like back in the US, I had like a continuous assessment, meaning like every 2 weeks or 3 weeks we'd have an exam, or an exam a month, let's say. But within that, you'd have like quizzes and homework and mini assignments to do, and it would all add up over time, and each thing would have its own percentage towards your final grade. But here in Ireland, you usually just have a midterm and a final, so your homework is pretty much going to class and taking notes. Um, so I'm not really used to that, because it puts a lot of weight on those two tests, pretty much those two exams. So I'm not used to that. So yeah, it's definitely been different. And I'd say I prefer the continuous assessment more, but yeah, it's been different for sure.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit. How have you all handled exchange rates? Has anybody used an app to handle your money?
Yeah, I would highly recommend Wise. I use Wise. I mean, there's two really good platforms, Revolut and Wise. People say Revolut's better, people say Wise is better. They're both really good platforms for having money in a bunch of different currencies. Um, but I personally use Wise, and it's pretty. They're like pretty 100. Like they're very accurate with the conversion rates and such. So it's and you can open bank accounts in multiple different currencies. So I have like a Euro bank account at the moment and a US dollar bank account. So it makes it really easy for paying for things while I'm in Europe and such. So
I've seen something where it's on the calculator app on your phone, and I don't know the exact details. I have it on my phone already, but I don't remember how I did it. But you hold down a button on it. If you search a video up, you can get it, and it has the exchange rates for everything. So if you put in 10 like US, it'll put the exchange rate to euros or whatever. And you can still do like actual calculations and like multiplying and stuff like that, but you can also have the exchange rates there too for anything. So,
Yeah, that's actually what I've been using. Just the calculator app. I think it's just a new update or something, but um, in just the bottom left, it's just there's an option that says convert, and you just switch it, and you can put in whatever currency you use, and then yeah, you just type in whatever number, and it'll instantly just show you the conversion rate. So yeah, that's been super nice.
Awesome. Thanks,
I,
everybody.
I just had a question. For the two of you guys, why did you guys use the conversion for? Like, did you guys want to just calculate how much everything cost, or like, what was the use of that?
Yeah, pretty much just how much stuff costed. Like I'll just see it and be like, like how much is that really? And I could just real quick whip out the calculator app. And then also, like if my friend like picked up the bill or something, I could
yeah, that's
just,
what I was gonna say.
yeah, convert it
Or
and I'll just
Venmo,
Venmo
stuff
them.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I have definitely heard from a lot of students, especially students going to Europe, apps like Revolut and Wise, and that those are super popular in terms of managing money. I don't know if it works in Asia, but definitely in Europe, we hear from students all the time that they are using apps like that. Okay. This is a question for all of you. Do you have any tips for balancing your academics and exploring and really experiencing your host country? How have you tried to balance those priorities? Do you want to start, Emily?
For oh, Emily, you
Or go
got it. Go
ahead.
ahead,
Go ahead.
Emily.
You can go, Mitchell. Absolutely. You had a
Okay. For me, it's really just get the work done. Like as soon as I get it, just get it out the way. At least just before the weekend, just because I know Friday, Saturday, I'm gonna want to be going out like doing something. So I know I just gotta get the work done ahead of time. I try not to leave it for Sunday, but then sometimes it doesn't work out. So sometimes Sunday's a work day, but yeah, usually just get it done before the weekend and sacrifice the time during the week. It's usually worth it.
Yeah, I feel like the week and weekend point is a really good one because like whether your class schedule is really thick or not during the weeks, you may or may not be able to travel during the week. But you don't have anything on the weekends, so that's just kind of a really good reliable time to if you want to do some exploring, then that is when you would do it. So yeah, just buckling down during the week can really help. But I've also noticed that I like buckle down a little bit too much during the week and I'm like, man, I had nothing to do for like 4 hours that day. I could have gone to a museum or something. And like, so I just would say really don't let time pass you by, but also like, I don't know, try to find that balance between like getting everything done and also like stopping to smell the roses, I guess. But
That's great advice. Anybody else?
I just like to mention how, like I said, there's a midterm and a final. So personally, I really haven't had much work. which is great. I'm not sure if any of you guys are going to Ireland in this current Zoom, but if anybody's listening to this in the future and is thinking about going to UCC, just know you'll have a ton of free time. So if that skews you to go to the school, then yeah, I definitely think you should.
Um, so we're gonna dig into the reverse of this question. So we have a student coming from outside of the US she's coming from France and is gonna be studying in the US and is curious about what the academic experience is usually like in the US. So do you all want to speak? I know, Christian, you mentioned a little bit of continuous assessment, but do you all want to talk about what courses are usually like in the US? And it differs obviously from university to university. Everybody has their own setup, but do you want to talk about your experiences?
So my home university is fairly strict on attending courses. I know as you get into the later, more higher level courses, a lot of them will have mandatory attendance and such. Um, so a lot of times you will have to attend the courses you sign up for, unfortunately. But also, if you have a lot of like lectures and such, they want you to go to them. You don't have to. But yeah, I guess in my personal experience, I had to pretty much attend most of my classes. So
Yeah, that's something that often shocks students when they come to the United States, that many universities in the United States have mandatory attendance at classes, or you're only allowed to miss up to two class sessions and things like that. That's pretty common in the United States, that you're expected to be in class and they're checking.
Yeah, I feel like my professors in the US, they'll do like 5 or 10% of your grade is based on like participation or attendance. So that's just something to be aware of. It's usually never anything like that will make or break your grade, but it can add up and kind of jump scare people, especially if you're not used to it. But yeah, I think I'm kind of on the same page as Christian, where like I also only have like my midterm, my formative, and then my uh, at the end of my semester exam. And so most of my homework is like readings and taking notes. So yeah, I just would say making sure that you're getting your assignments done, your littler assignments, because that is just kind of something that's going to always be there, and that your professor is like constantly going to be waiting for something from you because those assignments are just there. But yeah, I think that's been the biggest difference for me is just yeah, yeah.
Actually for me, most of my classes don't require, or they, I mean, obviously want you to attend, but you don't, it's not really, they're not keeping track. So a lot of the accountability is on you if you actually go to the class or like do the readings and stuff. Like they're not really going to be on your back making you do it, but when test day comes, if you know the stuff, you do or you don't. So a lot of the accountability is on you. Um, and then yeah, like lots of like smaller assignments and quizzes throughout the semester. So definitely try to like stay on top of that. Like have a to-do list and write down all your assignments you have to do. And then I think something that's really helped me is just like first day of classes, try to make a friend, and like kind of get a group chat going. So like if you do miss class, you can kind of get the notes or something from those people in the class, and also just like having a study group is super helpful.
Awesome. Okay, staying on that same questions about student life in the US, do any of you have apps that you use in the US to manage money in the US or to split bills with friends or things like that? What do you use in the United States?
Venmo or Zelle, one of those.
I use Venmo, but I'm old. I don't know if you guys use that at your age group, but I use Venmo. That would be what I would use in the US.
Yeah, I feel like
Splitwise also, yeah, Splitwise.
I feel like Venmo is pretty popular that I've noticed people in the UK don't necessarily use as often. I will say for like on the splitting bills aspect, my friend has introduced me here to TriCount. That works great in the UK. I'm assuming it works great in the US as well. And that just kind of you can have, I think, two or more people, and you just add people to that bill, and then it will show like how much each friend owes each other. So if you have like a day out or something and you guys don't want to like split the bill at a restaurant, that can be a good way to go about doing that. But yeah.
That's also, so that's kind of how Splitwise works too, which is great. So Splitwise is great if you're doing like a group trip and you don't want everybody to have to try to pay for their part of every single thing. You can just say, like Emily paid for dinner on Tuesday and this was the total bill, and Christian paid for lunch on Wednesday and that was the total bill, and it'll add it all up and figure out at the end how much everybody owes everybody else, which is really helpful.
Yeah, definitely Venmo is like number one. Some people might have Cash App. That's kind of a random one, but I think another big thing is, I mean, in Tokyo, it's like a very cash heavy um society, but in the US, I feel like we're definitely moving away from cash. So I'd say like get some cash just in case, but you definitely don't need to like go overboard with the cash.
Awesome. All right, next question is for Emily. What would be your number one tip about life in the UK? Can be anything, food, culture, social life. What would be your biggest tip about studying in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. I kind of always wanted to come here. I'm like looking at maybe going to grad school here, so that was one of the biggest reasons I came here. But one thing that kind of threw me off at first when I first got here is that people, I think, initially are just a little bit less friendly in conversation. So like I would go on morning walks and like uh I feel like in the US, if you go on a walk or a hike or something, you like pass people on the trail, you're like, oh hey, good morning, how's it going? Where like if I didn't say anything passing people, they would also not say anything at all. And so I feel like just don't be afraid to start a conversation, because it also may not be very often that people do start a conversation with you, but it's not like people are being deliberately cold or anything like that. It's just not as common to be super friendly. So I guess that would be my tip. Yeah. Yeah. Also, just a big thing is when you go to restaurants or pubs or something, sometimes it can be a little hard to tell if you're supposed to order at the counter or if it's table service. Or so even asking people who work there is not a big deal. I just be transparent, and like asking question is totally fine in all like almost all scenarios.
Awesome. The next one is about class technology. So the student says, my home university in the US uses technology and bringing laptops to class, I assume, constantly throughout the course. Is this the same for European schools? Are you doing like interactive technology things in your classes in Europe?
So I would say in Estonia, yes, yes, absolutely, yes. Um, Most of the everything is done on technology. As I said, all the lectures and stuff are online. Pretty much all your homework you do is online. Pretty much all the classrooms and stuff have computers in them. Um, so pretty much everything you will be doing is on technology and not much paper. Pretty much everybody takes notes on their laptops. I still like writing on paper, but most people do it on laptops and such anyway. So I would say yes, lots of technology is being used there for sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd say that's one thing that's been similar from my two universities is the use of technology. They use Canvas, they use projectors, they use all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty similar.
Okay. Our next question is, can you talk a little bit about your experience registering for classes as an exchange student? And if you have any tips for folks on registering for classes? Obviously, everybody's experience will vary greatly based on the registration process at their host site. Each university has their own specific registration process. But if you have any overall tips?
Mm, I know for me, a lot of the classes that I could take were master's levels or they claimed to be not for international students. So in order for me to get into a lot of the classes I wanted to take, I had to email the professors who taught the courses. So if you find you want to take a course that doesn't seem to be available to you, just reach out to the professor teaching the course and say, hey, I would like to take your course. And they would probably be like, yeah, sure, you can participate. So just, I think the biggest piece is just email the teacher if you're unable to get into a course, and they will probably let you in most of the time. So
Yeah, for me, I didn't actually choose my courses until like about like a week before classes actually started. So I was already um in Japan, and I had settled down. I'd been here about like 2 weeks, and then I actually chose the courses that I wanted. They had given us a list of the courses that they were offering, so I had a good idea of what I was going to take, but I didn't actually get to pick them till like about a week before classes were starting.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. Yeah, I mean, it's always great if you can be a little bit more flexible. I mean, I know it just depends on where you're going to be and what they have available. But yeah, I think kind of like what Mitchell said, I also did not choose my classes until about a week or two before classes started. And that seemed to be pretty normal. So just that was a little different. Where in the US, I would be picking classes like 6 months before class starts. So that was a big difference for me.
Awesome. Okay. Next two questions we're going to do quickly, and then I have one big last question for you all. And this one, everyone can just nod yes or no. In the US, do you all take your notes on a laptop? So it's individual preference, 50-50, some yes, some no. And then Mitchell, the question for you is, do you recommend withdrawing yen if you find a good exchange rate since cash is preferred?
Yeah, definitely get yen. The best places are like just 7-Eleven. It's really simple. They're like everywhere here. So yeah, they have a really good exchange rate, and it's a pretty small transaction fee. But definitely get cash, because like the bigger restaurants and like stores will all take card and everything, but more of like the niche like local places definitely all cash. So definitely want a good amount of cash.
Um, okay, for our last question for everybody, what are you most looking forward to in the remainder of your time abroad? What's your number one thing that you're most excited about that you've got coming up?
So something that actually wasn't really mentioned so much during this meeting was if you're studying and going to Europe at least, a lot of the European universities have something called ESN, which is the Erasmus Student Network, which is pretty much a student network of all the exchange students who are studying at that European university. Um, and so when I return back to Estonia in like a week or so, uh, I'm going on like a big trip with about maybe 50 or 60 exchange students, and we're going to one of Estonia's biggest islands called Saaremaa. So with this ESN Erasmus Student Network, you do a lot of like really cool events and stuff. And so if you're going to a European, mainly EU university, definitely look for ESN, because that'll be where you have like you'll meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun stuff. So yeah.
That sounds awesome. That's great.
I mean, yeah, like I mentioned previously, traveling is probably the most exciting part of studying abroad, or for me at least. So obviously, for the remainder of the time here, it'd be traveling. Um, but I'd also say
Do you
like
have any big trip in particular that you're doing?
sorry, I thought I had lagged or something. Am I doing a big trip? No, I actually just came back from Barcelona and Paris though, which is similar to Mason. I went with like a group of 9 guys and we got an Airbnb. It was really fun. So I'm actually probably done traveling anywhere outside of Ireland, but I'd honestly think traveling inside of Ireland right now because it's where I stayed and I'd like to see all of it before I leave. Um, but also, just like your friend groups are the most solid right now because they've been developing throughout this whole process. So just kind of realizing you're gonna leave soon, and just hanging out with your friend group is probably what I'm most excited for before I leave.
Yeah, I really liked the point about like feeling right now is when your friend groups are kind of the strongest, or like you're starting to realize that you have made some pretty strong connections while you're here. But I've got a couple of flatmates, and I and some of their friends from London are going to come up, and we're looking at maybe doing like a seaside village trip that's only like an hour away from where we live, but we think we're going to do like the weekend there with maybe an Airbnb or something. But yeah, just like a smaller trip, but really trying to spend time with the people that I've met here.
Yeah, I have a few trips. I'm going to Disneyland, so definitely excited for that. And also a trip to Korea, so also excited for that one. But I think the main thing is just still excited to meet new people and just make new friends. I think that's really the number one thing.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that you all have made such close connections and such great friendships in your time abroad. That's so important, and I'm so glad to hear it. So that's our time. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your experience and answering so many questions. You guys have been fantastic. We really appreciate you being here with us today and sharing your stories. Um, and if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to your ISEP Student Services Officer. Their contact information is up there on the screen, and they'll be great to answer any of your individual questions. They can also help connect you with other alumni or current students. And then, do you want to go to the next one, Jackie? Also connect with ISEP. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and we'd love to, see your stories when you go abroad. Thanks,
One
everyone.
thing, is
Oh,
it
yeah.
alright if I drop my Instagram just if anyone
Yeah, of
has
course,
other
definitely.
questions?
Yes, if you want to follow our panelists, you're welcome to follow our panelists. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Bye.